Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to look at a change made this year that may have gone a bit under the radar, but in theory has the potential to shake up what's traditionally been a very frowned upon strategy of trading in Feudal Age. I don't mean buying and selling at the market, which is totally fine, but using trade cards prior to the technology Caravan, which isn't even available until Castle Age. A few months ago, the devs tweaked trade carts and trade cogs, increasing their speed by 25%, but reducing the effect of Caravan to just a 20% improvement, down from 50%. Now 25 and 20% combined might sound like it comes out to less than 50, but if you do the math, it is the same final result, with trade carts after Caravan moving 1.5 tiles per second and trade cogs at nearly 2 tiles per second. Nothing in a post-Imperial team game situation here has changed. However, trading before Caravan is now improved. Historically, trading in Feudal or early Castle Age is something you've never seen competitive players do. But let's investigate what this change might do to early trade, if it has any impact on when to research Caravan, and try to figure out what the whole point of this adjustment might be. Just to establish some basics, the main advantage of trade is actually not an insanely high gold generation per unit, and in fact, villagers on gold tend to be consistently better. Instead, it's the infinite nature of trade carts that's so good, and you're almost pushed into it out of necessity if you want to keep making gold units once gold on the map runs out. To illustrate, here I have two markets on either end of a 2v2 team island map, where each round trip generates 64 gold. Previously, without Caravan, this would have been equivalent to a little under 14 gold per minute, and would now be about 17 gold per minute with the faster default speed. In comparison, even a lowly Dark Age gold miner gathers 21 to 22 gold per minute. That said, this route is only about 70% the length of the side of the map, and on a longer route, trade carts average more gold over time. We can show the relationship between trade route length and gold, with longer routes going to the right up to a maximum of a little over 1.4 times the map side length, which would be a route perfectly diagonal across the map. And if we look at how much gold per minute a trade cart generates, here's the old trade carts, the new ones, and then with Caravan. Essentially, in the past you'd need an incredibly long route, about 1.2 times the side length of the map, just to match the production of one Dark Age miner, whereas now that happens at a much shorter route, and with Caravan, we'd be hitting that point roughly on the Team Island map we're using as an example. All this is just to give you a sense of why villagers are generally preferable to trade carts, and even with Caravan, you need a fantastic route to match a gold miner with both mining upgrades, though admittedly with Caravan, a type of gold generation is theoretically possible. Still, there's another argument that even if on a per unit basis, trade carts aren't your best gold generators, and we grant that villagers are better population wise, in the early game with one town center, you're limited in how quickly you can produce villagers. We've looked at this concept before, but even if you didn't see that video, you're probably familiar with the idea of fishing ships supercharging your early game, simply because you can have a second building producing resource generating units in addition to your town center. Fishing is unequivocally considered a strong play from an economic point of view, and at first it seems like producing trade carts in Feudal Age follows the same principle, as you could keep your town center working continuously while simultaneously pumping out fishing ships at the dock and trade carts in a market to hyper-accelerate your economy. It's tempting to think that, but the closer we look, the more it feels like trade carts do not deliver in that situation. If we take our Team Island map example, which I like because it's a relatively safe route and we can test both land and water trade at once, if we queue up 4 trade carts and keep an eye on how many resources they collect over 12 minutes, checking at 1-minute intervals, this is what we get, noticing a long 6-minute delay between when we start queuing and when the first cart has not just come out, but completed an entire route. Now, a shorter route would start bringing in gold faster, but remember that gets us less gold over time, so in practice you pretty much always want the longest route you can get. Now this is the old trade cart speed as a baseline, but if we do it again with the newer 25% faster movement speed, we get this. The reason it's a little straighter is just how it happened to line up with the 1-minute intervals when I was checking, and in reality these would both look like steps as gold is dropped off in chunks, but tracking every second that gold was dropped off wouldn't really change the big picture and seem like overkill. In contrast, this is the payoff of 4 fishing ships, which you can see is already bringing in resources by minute 2, and is then off to the races, with the 4 queued up fishing ships collecting almost 800 resources by 12 minutes, compared to around 500 for the new trade carts without Caravan. In contrast, here are trade cogs from the dock, queuing up 4 units from the start, and despite a 4-minute delay before the first round trip is made, the new speed boost actually makes them look pretty comparable in value to fishing ships. They look promising at the new speed, but the big wrinkle is that fishing ships cost 75 wood each, while trade units are 100 wood and 50 gold. We have to account for those costs to see the real problem, which is fishing ships pay off in about 5 minutes, while our 4 trade cogs don't break even until 10 minutes, even with the faster default movement speed. Trade carts are even worse, and by 12 minutes both before and even now after the recent change, they're still in a resource deficit, though they're obviously a little closer to paying off now than they were before. This is why, despite your market feeling like an extra source of population growth in Feudal Age, it's just not a good idea to trade early. Basically, any other technology or investment you can make will pay off faster, and while we can say the details are different, nothing about early trade conclusions are impacted by the 25% speed boost at all. So then why would the devs have made this change in the first place? My assumption is that the devs know early trade is inefficient and generally something you only see at lower levels, as it intuitively feels so similar to fishing unless you look more deeply into it. Presumably, the devs are not trying to encourage early trade so much as just trying to make it less brutally punishing. If they know players are going to do it anyway, an extra 25% speed doesn't change that it's still a bad idea, and why not give them a 13 instead of a 16-minute payback time, for instance? Going from 1 to 1.25 tiles per second also makes trade carts much harder for infantry or archers to raid, so it's not just a resource argument, but also just a matter of keeping them alive that's less punishing. The other side to all of this is, what does it mean for the technology Caravan, which still costs 200 food and 200 gold, but now gives just a 20% speed boost instead of 50%? Are there now situations it may not even be worth it? To address that idea first, I think it's always going to be worth getting in situations you're starting trade, as the whole point of trading is that you're doing it for the long run. If you expect the game to end in the next few minutes, then spend your gold on units, not trade carts at 50 gold each. By its nature, this is something you're expecting to take some time to pay off, and Caravan just magnifies that with more investment early for more payoff later. Of course, we can be more precise than that. Again, I took our team island with a decent trade route length, and this time with 2 markets, either queued up trade carts continuously or use one of them to research Caravan first, while then keeping them both continually making trade carts. It's a common strategy to make multiple markets, as trade carts take 50 seconds each to create, so speeding that up when you start trade is a really good plan. There's a slightly cheesy variation of this as well, where you can build markets on your side, but also markets beside your allies. So those trade carts produced immediately fill up on gold and will deliver it to your more distant markets. But I don't really want to account for the lost resources of sending a villager across the map, so we'll go with the simpler and I think more common case of everyone building markets solely in their own base. Looking at the effect of researching Caravan first, it's just strictly better than opening with trade carts alone, as you lose out on one trade cart at first, but all future ones are better, so there's no question Caravan is definitely still worth getting. The problem is it's 250 more resources than a trade cart, and if we account for that higher cost up front, it actually took over 11 minutes for Caravan to pay off with 2 markets. In fairness, half that cost is food, and this is a period we probably value gold higher, which is also what trade carts are generating. So if we only look at gold, that would shorten the payoff time. But clearly a side effect of the change this year is that Caravan gives less amazing value than it did before. Now this might actually be the real intended point of the entire change, making it less punishing not for Feudal Age traders, but for someone in Castle or Imperial Age who accidentally misses grabbing Caravan first. These days, you essentially get half the benefit of the old Caravan tech, even if you forget it. Either way, there really isn't anything in the update that should change what you do. It makes a few situations more forgiving than before, but I have yet to see a case where it makes sense to trade at a different point than previously, or to delay the now weaker Caravan tech. Essentially, carry on as you were, unless you were one of those Feudal Age traders, in which case I think you should try spending those extra resources on other techs or aging up quicker. You may find you get slightly better results, and there are good reasons to save trading for late Castle Age or even Imperial. That'll do it for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.